So, good morning, Tim. It's nice to be here to talk to you for the catamaran site. I'm wondering if you could tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what you do at Nautilus Sailing.
Morning, Diane. Well, hey, it's an honor to be here and just to good to be here this morning. So Nautilus sailing, I learned to sail in Southern California many years ago, and it took about 2 years to learn how to sail, going every Sunday for a couple hours. And actually, at the time, I was a teacher in inner city Los Angeles, training new teachers, developing experimental education programs, and I was rather unimpressed by the quality of education. I had 8 different instructors at the time, but unfortunately, most of them were these older gentlemen that were very accomplished sailors,
Hmm.
but they weren't the best teachers. And so, over the process of 2 years, I learned how to sail, and it was great. Really enjoyed sailing, but it was always in the back of my mind of, you know what, there's a much better way to teach sailing than what most folks are doing out there. And so, years later, I was working in the corporate world doing international project management. In 2008, when the economy crashed, lost my job, and my wife and I said, well, what do we really enjoy doing? And we were spending all of our vacations sailing, and both of us loved teaching, and we're like, why don't we try to set up a sailing school that's just a little bit different, that's based on educational techniques, best educational practices. And the reality is, it's one thing to learn how to sail if you live near a coastal community and you can go every Sunday for 2 years. But what about all the people that live in the rest of the country, right? Folks that live in Colorado or Montana and that don't live near an ocean. So at the time, there we were just seeing these live aboard courses that were kind of just starting to hit the radar. And so we thought, let's do that. Why don't we focus on week-long intensive live aboard courses where we can take people to beautiful places in the world, to cruising grounds that maybe one day they're going to dream of sailing in, and we'll use best educational practices and we'll teach them how to sail. So we went through the whole process. We became an official American Sailing Association school, got all of our certification, and we launched our first base in the Caribbean and the Grenadines. And then after that, added Mexico, and now we're up to 6 bases. But that's kind of what we do now, is we focus on these week-long intensive live aboard courses to help people embark on their sailing dreams.
And catamarans, where does that come into the story?
It's really interesting, and I'm sure you've seen this too, Diane. When we started 13 years ago. We were all monohulls, and you would show up at any charter fleet in the world, and it was mainly monohulls and maybe a couple of catamarans. And then slowly, in the last 5 years, we just saw a huge shift. And starting probably in about 2018, we noticed that all of the charter locations where we were teaching, it was more and more catamarans, and our clients started asking about catamarans. And so now we run probably over 100 trips a year, 400 to 500 students annually, and 90% of those trips are on catamarans. Everybody wants to be on catamarans. And so we are really teaching mainly catamarans. We still get the odd monohull course here and there, but really the bulk of what we do is catamarans.
Okay, cool. I'm as a sailor who was on a cat for a long time, I am sort of partial to catamarans, so I can understand why people would be choosing them. Uh, when people come in, what kind of experience do they have, or what kind of experience do you require them to have?
So interestingly enough, most of our clients come in with big dreams and very little sailing experience. It may be like, I took out a Hobie Cat back when I was a kid or sailed with my cousin a little bit, but most people are coming in with minimal sailing experience. And I think we owe a lot of gratitude to all the sailing video blogs out there that have really just kind of made sailing a little bit more mainstream, right? People are seeing it. It's on more people's radars now, and they're realizing it's not quite as exclusive. And so honestly, most of the folks coming into our classes, they don't have a lot of experience, and our courses are designed to take them from the very early stages where they're learning all the terminology and all that, to really then all the skills to being comfortable just operating and sailing a catamaran by the end of the week.
Okay, so you're talking about people coming in, watching those video blogs, and I know, having known some of those bloggers from being out
Okay.
sailing on our own, I know that sometimes they give a little bit of a distorted view that you can start with almost no knowledge and sort of stupidly find your way around the world, and it's all going to be great. So, what kind of misconceptions do new students have after watching videos like that? What do you have to sort of work on to make clear to them?
You know what, Dan? I think that's exactly it right there. We have folks come in like, oh, the sailing thing's going to be easy. There's all these beautiful couples sailing around the world, and they post videos, and they're just sipping drinks and swimming and snorkeling and all that. It's got to be easy. And so there's always interesting when I'm teaching. in probably day one, end of day one, day two, people sometimes have this glazed look on their face and they're like, oh my gosh, there is so much to learn, right? It's a whole new language of terminology. And then you're throwing systems on top of about how do you maintain your diesel? How do you troubleshoot your diesel? It's not just about raising the white flappy things and sailing, right? There's a myriad of other things that go into it, from knowing what to do in heavy weather to knowing, how do you navigate successfully? How do you use charting software and all this? So I think people realize once they're on the course, oh my goodness, there's no way I would have figured this out completely on my own. So there's definitely that huge misconception of, hey, I'll buy a boat and sail around the world. Oh my goodness, those folks, I'm sure they'll figure it out, as a lot of the sailing video bloggers have. But the reality is they are going to make so many costly mistakes, and to learn that way, there's going to be a steep learning curve. So it's so much better to go through a formal course where an entity like us is taking people through over 100 practical skills, going through 3 to 4
Oh, wow.
volumes of materials in a systematic approach, right? You just can't get that by trying to figure it out on your own.
No, I would agree. What we know when things happen on boats is things happen all the time. Things break all the time. You run into problems all the time. But what you learn with experience is how to get better at managing problems. So how is that something you teach people?
I think the biggest thing is flexibility. I think really there's an attitude that if you come into this of, oh, I'm just going to buy a new boat, nothing's going to break, everything's going to be perfect, I'm never going to have to fix anything, you're in for a big wake up call, right? Because as you say, something always breaks on a boat all the time, right? You're constantly, I mean, being a cruiser is about fixing boat things in paradise, right? It's kind of at the end of the day, that's what it's going to be about. And so we really try to teach a mentality of flexibility and teach people that, hey, they're going to have to embrace their inner MacGyver, right? When things break and you don't have the right part, what can you do to do a workaround? How can you fix it? And so really that we're trying to teach a mentality when people come into this. So because it is a big misconception, like you say.
That's great. So I'm guessing from the way you describe it that you're not coming in knowing nothing. And at the end of the week you're ready to buy a catamaran. What do you see as the process for somebody who knows nothing but wants to get to the point where they own their own cat and they're off cruising successfully?
Good question, Dan. I think one of the big misconceptions is people nowadays we want things quickly, right? We want things fast. And so there's this term that kind of floats around in other industries as well, the zero to hero. Whether you're learning how to kiteboard or be a chef or whatever, you'll do the zero to hero in a week. And the reality with sailing, that's just not possible, right? We can give you all the tools, give you a firm foundation, but becoming a hero or reaching that level of mastery takes time. And so we tell all of our students, we are going to give you a license to learn. We're going to give you the foundation so you know all the basics, you know how to moor, you know how to anchor, you know how to navigate, you know how to troubleshoot and all these things. But really, you're not going to become incredible at this until you put in the time. Everything in life, whether you're learning how to scuba dive or fly a plane or kiteboard or become a chef, it all just takes time and putting in the hours. So we try to make that really clear with our students ahead of time that, hey, we're going to give you an amazing foundation. After this, go out, start chartering, right? Get some experience under your belt. If you have your own boat, sail it, right? But really just kind of slowly build your experience, because that's key. So you can't expect that after a week-long course, you're going to round Cape Horn in 50-foot waves, right? That's just not, you need the experience and you need to build up to that.
That makes a lot of sense. Have you heard from students who have taken the course and gone on to buy their own boats? Do you hear back from people?
We do all the time, Dan. So I think we've got just over 4,000 alumni now sailing the oceans of the world. And what's really cool is about 50% of our students are doing our courses because they're excited to become cruisers. They either want to take a sabbatical with their family and they want to sail through the Caribbean for 2 years, or they want to buy a boat and sail around the world. So about half of our students
Wow.
already have boat ownership in mind. And so, I mean, every year we hear back from, hey, I got my boat, I've set out, I've started, it's great. And then the other half of our students, they're excited to charter and see where it leads. They may be at a stage in life where they have younger kids at home and things like that. And maybe they want to do, some charters for a couple of years before they take a sabbatical or go cruising. And so it really is neat to hear back from students that have learned with us and are now sailing around the world.
Oh my gosh, Tim, your enthusiasm and just the way you're talking about how you teach makes me want to go back because I definitely learned that old school way where there was a lot more shouting than anything.
Exactly.
It's not a fun way to learn. It's not it doesn't build confidence. It actually, for a lot of women especially, builds a lot of fear. So I think the idea of being taught how to sail in a really sort of concrete way that follows best practices that looks at how people learn is just a really exciting idea, and that you're not going to miss a lot of that information along the way, because those old school courses, when you learn from somebody who just is teaching his perspective, him usually,
True.
there's a lot of missed things. So how can people get a hold of you and learn more about the courses from you in person?
Yeah, so the best place is probably go to our website, which is nautilussailing.com. And the one thing that confuses people in there, there's two S's in the middle. There's the S at the end of Nautilus, and then there's the sailing. But nautilussailing.com is the best place to start. And then, there people can connect with us on social and other places like that. We work really hard. We've released 8 different videos now on YouTube for free that just cover the absolute basics, from mooring, anchoring, docking, and all that. And they've really been well received. I think because we use best educational techniques and we've kept it really short and succinct, those videos now have over 1 million views. So people are, welcome to check that out. Another thing that we're really excited about, Diane, is we're just about to launch an online catamaran sailing masterclass with 36 videos, and it covers everything from how to check your diesels, how to light the stove, how to use a marine head, how to use navionics for charting. And it will be a paid course, but that's going to be live in about a week or two. We spent about 18 months designing and filming this course, professional videographers, animators to do, sketches and mock-ups and things. So we're really excited, and we're thinking that's going to be a great tool for people too, just as they're in the early stages of exploring if this whole catamaran lifestyle and cruising is for them.
That sounds amazing. So is that kind of a pre-course that you might watch before you come and join you and have a sense of what you're in for and how much room
That's
you
it.
really have to put your luggage in? And
Exactly. And I think, that's the big thing, Diane. As part of our courses, we send everyone the 3 to 4 American Sailing Association textbooks. But what we're finding is everybody's so busy that nobody really has the time to read. And so all of our students will show up on day one and they'll be like, Tim, I've got to confess, I'm so sorry. I had so many meetings and things going on. I read one textbook, but I didn't even touch the other 3. So we thought, you know what? People are much more open to watching videos. So we thought if we can put these in bite-sized chunks where every video is anywhere from 4 to 10 minutes or so, people are more likely to watch them. And so we're excited for our students. Anybody that signs up for the course, they're going to get this masterclass free, just to help that better prepare them, so that when they're on the boat, we can spend a lot more time focusing on the skills and all that, rather than just having to cover the theory and the terminology and those kinds of things.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Tim. This has just been really interesting. And I think viewers will be quite excited to hear about a sailing school that's got such a sailor forward perspective, that it sounds like it's really about making sailing fun and making it demystifying a lot of it. So thanks again for your time.